Ghana was using the biometric voter register for the first time. However, to identify voters at the polling stations, the Electoral Commission only used handheld machines, also known as poll books.
Verified.
Or verification machines, if you like, to which data from the BVR kits, including photographs and fingerprints, had been transferred. A voter had to produce a voting card first, name checked on a manual list that contains barcodes before fingerprints are scanned. A process observers say was a commendable step ahead in dealing with cheating and fraud.
For the most part, the BVR technology worked in this country. If you look at the elections and if you compare what happened nationally. But one thing that must be pointed out, that like with all machines and with all technology, the BVR failed in certain instances.
For us, we are going to use our BVR kits as poll books in the polling stations. They're only 15,000, which means we'll have to buy some more poll books if we're going to cover the whole country. And so, apart from the 15,000 BVR kits, we're going to buy some more poll books, just like what you're seeing in Ghana now.
Voter verification was slow and cumbersome in some polling stations.
And it's all attributed to the machine. The machines are a terrible disaster in many of these areas.
The BVR machines, when exposed to extreme temperatures and a lot of heat, they malfunction, they don't work. So, for example, in the northern part of this country that is extremely hot, there were a lot of malfunctioning as a result of extreme temperatures. And this for Kenya, you know, the northeastern province and the northern frontiers are usually very, very hot. So that is a lesson that we can pick out.
Some could not read the fingerprints of some voters.
And these are the old voters, and especially the farmers and the people who, for one reason or another, and those who came with the sweaty hands, the BVR machines could not read their particulars or their profile. They were asked actually to go and clean and wash their hands, and then clean them and dry them before they vote.
And the problem with the Ghanaian law is that there is no fallback position for identifying voters, unlike in the Kenyan situation.
Kenya's law is flexible. It allows us to use the register which is printed from the voter register. Because what is in the electronic poll book is actually what's being printed. It's the same thing.
The Kenyan team that observed the elections has also learned that training is very important. The polling clerks should thoroughly be prepared for the do's and don'ts when it comes to verifying voters using machines and what to do in a crisis situation.
Because in some places, when the machines ran out of battery, you had to reboot again. It took 2 hours for them to come back to life. Yet, in the training manual, they were told after every 5 hours, you change the battery.
Voting had to be extended by 1 day due to delays caused by technical hitches. IEBC is anticipating the same, to extend voting hours, but without taking an overnight break like what Ghana's electoral body did. The presidential election was a two-horse race between the incumbent, President John Mahama of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, and the main opposition candidate, Nana Akufo Addo of the National Patriotic Party, NPP. A runoff was initially imminent, but it was avoided when Mahama trounced Addo by garnering slightly over 50% of the votes, with his main rival garnering slightly less than 50%. Mahama fulfilled the rule that required a winner to bag just one vote more than half of the total votes cast in what Kenya also calls the 50% plus one vote rule. Voter turnout was over 80%. All the groups that monitored and observed the election declared it free, fair and credible. Observers concluded that it does not matter how high-tech a process is. Rather, members of the public and competitors in that election must be convinced that the election is transparent. On the other hand, the competitors and members of public must show maturity and tolerance, with the media being advised to be responsible, to measure claims and distinguish between substance and propaganda in order to avoid unnecessary tension. For Citizen TV in Accra, I'm Alex Chamwada.